This episode of Dolly Transformations is going to be different because I am working on an American Girl. As you can see, her leg is hanging on by a string, literally. However, this is not my doll. My sister works at an after-school program, and one of the middle school girls knew that we restored dolls, and this was her mother's doll, and she wanted to know if I could reattach the leg, and of course she's going to get the whole spa treatment. She wants to hand this down to her own kids someday, which is really cute. So we are going to do our very best to give this lady some new life. Her limbs are all tight except this leg, so I'm not going to have to like fully restring her. I'm going to check the elastics inside and make sure that they look okay. I don't think she's really going to be that bad. I think her bark is worse than her bite. So I hope you enjoyed this process. I usually only show my own dolls on this channel, but over the years, a few times people like that I know in person have asked me to fix things up. Like my aunt asked me to fix up her Shirley Temple doll, and I fixed up my cousin's wife's childhood Barbies. And a few years ago, when I was on my YouTube break, a friend of Colleen's asked me to fix up, it was like a 1950s or 1960s nun doll that was like completely in parts, and that was like a whole new experience for me because I had never dealt with a doll quite like that. So this is one of the times that I can actually document it for you. So without further ado, let's get to it. I wasn't sure at this stage if I was going to be restringing the entire doll because I needed to get inside her to see the condition of the other elastics, so I simply cut off the leg that was dangling, and then I just washed the other limbs while they were still attached to her torso. It totally doesn't matter if you get the torso wet when you're doing this because it's just stuffing. It's like getting a stuffed animal wet, and I was going to be washing the cloth body and the stuffing anyways, so it just helped me have more to hold on to. And I'm using baking soda and dish soap, and I gave her limbs like 2 scrubs each with the baking soda because of how much built-in grime there was. Now I know this is going to upset some people because you can see that there's some soap and water getting in her eyes. Well, there was no choice because she had stuff caked all over her eyelids, like someone smeared makeup in there. It was in her eyelashes. It was even like kind of in the back of her eye. Soap and water is not going to hurt these eyes. This is not what causes silver eye. This is a huge misconception. Silver eye, which is when the decal flakes, is a factory defect that was fixed when they changed manufacturers of the eyes. This is why American Girl replaces silver eyes for free. If it was something you did, they wouldn't replace it for free. I do use a blow dryer after on the cold setting to blow all of the water out from behind it. Sometimes you have to do this to clean the eyelids properly. She was fine, no worries. If you watch a lot of my transformation videos, then you would know this is the same process I use on Barbies or any doll. I use dish soap to wash their hair. I do this twice, and I use the dish soap and baking soda to scrub the bodies with the same toothbrush. American Girls really aren't that different. It's just the special blinking eyes that, you have to be a little bit mindful of. But in the case of this cute lady, I don't know what she had been through, but she had been through a lot and was really grimy, and every little crevice, even her ears, was just filthy. So I needed to be extra aggressive while cleaning. Her hair, of course, needed to be detangled, so I just used conditioner. Any kind works. I just have this Garnier, really like the smell of it, and a little of it goes a long way, but her hair was pretty dry, so I used a crap 10. And I'll use a wide tooth comb followed by a fine tooth comb, just like I would on Barbies. A lot of people think you have to use wire wig brushes. Nope, you can use regular combs. The wig brush is just recommended because it won't snag the wig cap, which you can see I'm more careful when I'm up at the top of the head. And most of the time I use a wig brush while styling because it's just easier to like pull all their hair together. But for this sort of thing, you really have to use a fine tooth comb, especially during the boil wash. Otherwise, you're not going to get the sleek finish. While the kettle was heating up the water for the boil wash, that's what you could hear in the background, I pulled all of her stuffing out and I'm going to put it in a pillowcase to go into the washing machine. And you'll note that I was using the teeth of my fine tooth comb to kind of help undo the knot because she's a Pleasant Company doll. She has the neck strings. If you had zip ties, you would cut those. And then I'm going to be snipping the remaining limbs of hers off. I checked her elastics by pulling them out, and I could see that they were also wearing out. You could see like the band was starting to separate on every limb, and this isn't my doll, so I didn't want to take a chance and send her back only for her to have dangling limbs again. So I cut them off. It'll be easy because I was able to restring them all together. It's really important to hold on to all of these little plastic cups. There should be 8 of them, 2 for each limb. And as for the like little pieces of elastic that are left over, those can just be thrown out. They have absolutely no use afterwards. And you'll see I took her torso, the fabric part, and I put it in my laundry tub with her dress that was soaking. You don't want to put this in the washing machine because it does have like plastic components that could get cracked or something in the spin cycle, and obviously you wouldn't want to put it in the dryer. But the stuffing itself will be going in the washing machine. There'll be a clip of that, and that can be put in the dryer. And at this stage I was waiting for the water to finish boiling. So each limb has plastic cups inside. So when I took the body apart, you can see I pulled 4 out that float inside the torso, and there are more inside the limbs. So I'm heating up the limbs by putting them in the boiling water, and they'll get really, really squishy. Just take some pliers and pull all of the cups out. And I'm also, you can see I'm doing that right here. It comes out really easy as long as the plastic is soft enough. Using the kettle really made a difference because when I used to heat up the water in the microwave, I felt like I was always struggling. But, yep, I just pull them out and make sure the little extra pieces of cut elastic come out too. Those are garbage. And I did have to make her hair totally straight. I tried running it under the hot tap when I was rinsing out the conditioner. That is something you can do if you want to keep some of the original texture, but like help maintain some of the frizz and dryness. That's what I did for my Welly Wishers Emerson. Her hair is still wavy, but if it's too dry or too frizzy, you're not going to have good luck with that. So I did have to put her in the boil wash, and I spent a considerable amount of time fixing her bangs because like half of her really thick bangs had been kind of pushed and swept back. So I had to sort those out so everything sat nicely. And once the water was a little bit more cooled down, I dipped her bangs in so they wouldn't go completely straight. And I'm using diluted gel all over her hair, as you can see here in my little color bottle. I use this on all my dolls, even American Girls. There's no reason you can't use it on them too. And I comb it through and kind of squeegee off any of the excess. And again, I had to focus a lot of my time up at the top of her scalp just to make sure that the bangs were parted right. Anytime I wash a doll with blinking eyes, I always take the blow dryer on the cold setting, only cold setting. Do not use the hot setting. And then you can see I have her head tipped down, and I'm blowing out any water that might have gotten back there out, so the aluminum in the back won't get all rusty. There was no water that actually came out, shockingly. My little friend had a few stains. She had permanent marker in her ear, and then a couple dots of permanent marker, what it looked like anyways, above her eye, and then a little something that didn't clean off her lips. So I used some peroxide developer that you use for hair coloring. My dolls have their own. I use 30 volume on them. I do not use 30 volume on my own hair. My hair does not need that. It lifts to like platinum with just 20 volume in like a half an hour. So I put this on. It's just peroxide. You don't mix bleach or anything with it. It's totally safe to use. And you wrap them up in plastic wrap, and it was pretty sunny. But this was the only day I was going to have to work on her, so I wasn't sure if I was getting them all out or not. Sorry for the bad lighting. This is in my laundry room, which is in the basement. I tied off the pillowcase that had the stuffing in it after adding a little laundry detergent directly into the pillowcase, and then I just did my normal load. I did put some laundry sanitizer in the rinse cycle thing. I use this mainly on pet bedding, but just to kill off any germs or bad odors that were in there. And this will run through the washing machine cycle and the dryer. And I put the doll out for stain removal, and I actually hung her body and clothes out to dry in the sunny weather too on my drying rack. I have never shown a full restring on my channel before. I do have a picture tutorial on my Flickr, and I will eventually film a dedicated video on this process. But I really just needed to get this doll done, and I didn't want to be filming like 2 different videos at once. So I use bungee cord in replacement of the elastics. You can buy some on eBay. People sell like kits for restringing. You don't want to use hair elastics. I tried that because a lot of people recommended it back in the day, like back in 2011, 2012 on YouTube. Hair elastics wear out. Bungee cords are made for holding very strong things, like, you know, they're not flimsy. So I buy the tiniest size, and then I'll cut off the little hooks and then cut the bungee cord in half. This is more than enough to restring a limb. And then what I do is, I got this idea from my dad. Now there's a lot of different ways you can hold the string in place. Currently, American Girl uses knots, so you can just knot the end of the bungee cord. I don't have good luck with this. I've tried it, but that's the cheapest and easiest method if you can finagle it. You can buy the brass inserts that were used like back in the day through about 2010 before they switched over completely to the knots. I bought some of those a long time ago at Home Depot, and the size I got were a little bit too like long, so they clunked around inside the doll, and they were kind of expensive if you're restringing a lot of them. So I got the idea. You could probably use zip ties too. I haven't tried that yet. I got the idea to use washers from my dad because he improperly restrung Molly and Samantha when we were kids, but it worked as like a clamp. So I fold the washer a little bit, like I bend it so it's a little bit curved. I slide it so the flat side is going to be facing where the cup is, and then I take jewelry crimpers and I flatten it out. I could use pliers, and that acts as a little stopper, and it works great. I've used it for years. So what I just did is I heated up the limbs in hot water to get them soft again. And I took my little pre-made bungee cords that already had the washer clamps put down. You want to have the cups so that the curved side goes into the limb. So you can see I'm putting the curved side so it's butting up against the washer, and then I push that into the limb. This cup helps like them rotate around. And for now, I don't have her torso quite yet, so this is just phase 1 of getting all these cups in the limbs. Now, some water might get inside from obviously heating them up in the boiling water. Just shake them out. It's fine if there's a little moisture in there. It dries out just fine. I've restrung tons of dolls or had to take them apart for deep cleaning and things, and this has never been an issue. Just shake out the extra water. Alright, so the next step is to actually pull the limbs through the torso. This was still wet, by the way, at this point. It doesn't matter. The torso hadn't fully air dried, but you can do it this way. You probably just don't want to put the stuffing back in because then the stuffing will get wet. So what I do is I usually start with the legs. I feed the bungee cord that's inside one of the legs through the corresponding hole. Got to make sure you put your left and right in the right place because these dolls do have fronts and backs. And I did demonstrate how you would use a hemostat or locking pliers. You can get these in the fishing section at Walmart. That's where my pair came from. You can use them to hold the elastic in place if you have trouble, but I've always just done this holding the tension myself. I have those hemostats it was for restringing another doll, different type. So basically you want to slide the washer and the cup on the inside. And this time you want the flat part butting up against the cup on the inside of the limb. It's kind of complicated, but you don't want the curved side pointing down. So the curved side goes inside the limb, and then the other side, it kind of is like the opposite. So then what you do is, so you can see here, I'm putting the flat side down, and you want to make sure to pull all the torso fabric away. Now I'm sliding my washer, and you want to pull with all your might and get it as tight as you can, because if you don't, there's going to be slack. And this is where it kind of takes some work, because the first few times I tried to restring, I didn't get enough tension, and the dolls would be kind of loose. You can also pull a little too tight, because as my sister always jokes and calls me Hercules or Louisa, I am very strong, and sometimes I've done it a little too tight. So like Lindsay and Nellie have trouble sitting because it's so tight. But I've learned to give like this teeniest bit of slack, and then I clamp it down. This takes a lot of getting used to and muscle memory. You can see I'm kind of testing it to see how tight they were. It had been a while since I had done a full restring, so I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but it went very smoothly. So cup flat side down, washer, and then I'm going to get my jewelry crimpers. You can use pliers, but these just work better for me. And then I pull them together and make it really tight, and make sure that it's not wiggling anywhere. And if you're using a zip tie or not, this is where you would do that instead. This step is optional, but the bungee cords do fray after you cut them. So I've taped them up in the past. You can use band-aids too if you want. Some people will just put an extra zip tie or something. I haven't done it too, and I've never had an issue. I've had dolls that I restrung back in 2012 that literally, it's been fine. So I'm just doing this as an extra precautionary step since this isn't my doll. Of course, there are some fumes being released, so if you're doing this all the time, maybe wear a mask. I don't restring every day, so this isn't an issue. You can also cut down some of the excess if you want. I just left it just for a little bit of wiggle room. I don't know, it didn't really matter. And I should have probably done this before I restrung and done it on the part that went inside the limbs, but like I said, it's just an aesthetic thing. It doesn't really make a difference. Once this doll's stuffing had come out of the dryer, she was ready to go. Her body dried really quickly in the sun. Once I had finished putting her limbs on, I hung her out to dry. If this had been one of my dolls and I wasn't trying to finish her in the same day I started, I would have let the torso dry before finishing the restringing. But again, my sister was going to be on school vacation. She works at a school, so I didn't want to have this doll like for way too much time. I wanted to return her back home, so I was trying to get all of this done. Yes, I did do this in one day, in just a few hours. It really isn't that difficult. I've done so many American Girls over the years. So the important part when you're putting the stuffing in is to really pack it down into the booty. I say this all the time, but like, they are supposed to have very ample bums, and if you don't make sure you push the stuffing down enough, you're going to end up with extra. And you're going to be like, what do I do with this? Because once you get up to the top of the shoulder region, you need to leave a little bit of room so the head can slide back in. So you don't want to have like a barrel-chested American Girl. I've made that mistake before. But the good thing about restuffing is, say you have a Pleasant Company doll and you want to put her in a modern outfit. Pleasant Company dolls are known for being a little bit fatter and thicker. We'll call them, thick. They're a little bit thicker than Mattel dolls. So my Pleasant Company dolls, because I have quite a few, they all were very loved when I was a kid, so they got kind of extra fluffy. So when they don't fit in clothes properly, I just take their heads off, pull out all the stuffing, and pack it back down. And it's like a weight loss regime for them. So they can wear newer clothes just fine. So pro tip, if you have older dolls, even if it's like a Mattel doll that's just been very loved, they get fluffy over time from being hugged and stuff. So it just helps compress everything back down and gives them a little bit of a slimmer frame. This girl actually didn't have as much stuffing as I've seen in some other Pleasant Company dolls. The white body ones, Molly and Samantha, they had like weird stuff in their stuffing. It was almost like papery, and it was in both of them, and they were both from different like sellers on eBay, so I don't know, that was weird. They must have used some other kind of filler. You can also replace the stuffing if you want. You don't have to wash the old stuff, but honestly, why clutter up a landfill? It's totally fine to be washed, unless you're concerned about mold or something. But my Lindsay doll was very moldy when I got her, and I just washed her stuff the same way, and she's been fine. She smells fine and all that, so it is an option. Or if you feel like you want them to be a little bit plumper, or if some of the stuffing just is falling apart or whatever, you can add more or just add all new stuff. I used to have a lot of trouble reattaching the heads, but for some reason I don't anymore. So you want to face them backwards because they can spin around, no worries. It's just easier because you have access to the strings or the zip tie. And then I kind of use my own head to like push hers down. You want to make sure it's like pushed in properly, and you want a lot of tension when you pull the strings or the zip tie tight, because you don't want any gaps so the head will start to come up. You know it's serious when I bust out my professional shears that I used in cosmetology school. No, but I needed a little bit like more of a precise cut, so I brought these out because she had some hairs that were just kind of stretched out and shaggy, and I wanted to clean her up a bit. It wasn't a major haircut. She didn't have frizzy ends or anything. I just wanted to clean everything up, and for some reason, I'm going to reposition the camera, but you'll see at the bottom there was some really strange things going on down here. Like it almost looked like she was shedding, but it wasn't loose, so I don't know what that was about. So I just wanted to clean it up, and you can see I'm using a combination of the wig brush and the rat tail comb, and I'm just cleaning that up so it doesn't look all hairy and scary. And her wig turned out really nice. It doesn't have the tucked in ends, which these dolls usually have, because I had to use such hot water to get her hair nice and sleek. If this was one of my dolls, I probably would have gone through the extra step of adding some tucked in ends, but that would have probably extended the amount of time I had this doll, because I had a horrible migraine this day. Like, I almost threw up from it, so I was surprised to even manage to finish her. And she's just going to get played with probably kind of roughly, so there really was no sense in gussying her up too much. So this is the American Girl before. She's really bad silver eye, which I'm not going to be able to do anything about. something was drawn on her lips and her ears, and also there's crud up in her on her eyelids, like maybe someone tried to put eyeshadow. It's hard to see, but well, that's not hard to see. Her leg is hanging on by a string, but her body is just foul. Like, I haven't seen this level of grime like on the back of her head in a long time. And this is my little friend after, so you can see everything is nice and tight. I restrung all of her limbs because all of the elastics showed wear, and because this one was in such bad shape, I didn't want to take the chance because you know, she isn't my doll, so it's not like I can keep an eye on the looseness. So you can see she does still have some stains on her ears, but that would take a while to get rid of, and I have to return her. So the ones over her eye did go away in one afternoon of stain removal, and it wasn't even like that warm out today, so that's impressive. Obviously there's nothing I could do about the silver eye, and I'm really impressed with the condition of her lip paint and blush. And even her eyebrows are still really nice. Pleasant Company dolls are known for not having a lot of paint to begin with, so when it preserves this well, especially considering how dirty she was, it's very impressive. I did have to like fix her bangs quite a bit because a lot of them had gone back into the rest of her hair because they have very thick bangs. And then her hair is nice and shiny and soft. It is totally straight because I had to straighten it out in the boil wash, and I didn't see a point in curling the ends because she's probably just going to get played with pretty heavily. You can see all of her limbs are nice and clean, so she is living her best life now. I hope you enjoyed this transformation video. My little friend here is very excited to go home. This is the outfit she came in when I washed it, but she's all nice and tight. Hold her poses, so she should be good for a long time, hopefully. If you want to see more detailed tutorials on how I clean this doll, boil wash, how I do all those like basic techniques, check out my tips and tutorials playlist, or I also have transformation videos on my own American Girls in my Dolly Transformations playlist. And until next time, love your dolls, love yourself, and love your life.